Hello, fellow tech people. I'm Dennis, and today we're diving into one of the most important yet most invisible parts of the modern web, and how it fits into the software testing lifecycle. If you haven't guessed it already, we're talking about APIs. More specifically, we'll be focusing on REST APIs, since they're the most common and flexible type you'll encounter in real-world applications, and a major focus in the QA training I completed through TripleTen's Quality Assurance Bootcamp. Before a button ever gets clicked or a screen ever loads, APIs are already hard at work behind the scenes. So let's start by breaking down what APIs are in plain language, and then we'll look at why QA teams test them early and often, the same way we were trained to do at TripleTen. Let's jump in. APIs might sound like a highly technical topic, but chances are you interact with them dozens of times a day without realizing it. Understanding APIs conceptually before testing them technically is one of the integral lessons a QA tester should master. That foundation-first mindset was emphasized heavily in my training at TripleTen, where we were taught to fully understand system behavior before ever writing a single test case. API stands for Application Programming Interface, but in plain language, an API is just how different systems talk to each other. APIs are the unsung heroes of the modern internet. Think of them as the waiters or couriers of the web. One app makes a request, the API takes the request to the right place, and then brings back a response. It's like ordering at a restaurant. You're the diner, the kitchen is the server, and the API is the waiter, quietly making sure your order gets to the kitchen and your meal makes it back to the table. When you enter a URL or use a search engine, an API relays the request to and from a corresponding server. When you log into an app, an API checks your username and password. When you check the weather, an API checks the latest forecast. When you place an online order, an API sends your payment, confirms your purchase, and updates your order status in seconds. There are different types of APIs, like SOAP APIs, RPC APIs, WebSocket APIs, and REST APIs. In this video, we're focusing on REST APIs, since they're the most widely used and ones most QA testers work with day to day. REST stands for Representational State Transfer. In a REST API, the client sends data to the server as a request. The server processes that input using its internal logic, then sends data back as a response. You never see APIs working, but almost everything you do online depends on them. And because APIs sit right in the middle of all this communication, they're also one of the first places things can break. That's why QA teams don't wait for bugs to show up in the UI. API testing helps catch issues at the internal level, saving time, preventing major bugs, and making applications more reliable. So why does QA test APIs? They are direct. One of the biggest reasons QA teams test APIs is due to the fact that they go straight to the source. They test core logic. API tests focus on the server's core logic and how the application actually processes requests and returns data, without relying on the extra layers of user interface. Though the UI is important, it also introduces complexities with layouts, browsers, screen sizes, and user interactions. There are no frills. At this stage of testing, QA isn't worried about the frills or add-ons. The goal is to make sure that the essentials work. Using our restaurant analogy, QA wants to know that the waiter can take the order to the kitchen and come back with the correct meal before worrying about decor or menu design. They are more efficient. Because API tests remove UI dependencies, they're faster and more efficient to run. They also reduce variables like browser differences or screen resolutions, which will lead to more stable tests and clearer results. Core lesson that we leaned on heavily during sprint-style testing exercises at TripleTen. There are less variables. Reducing variables is the name of the game in API testing. Fewer moving parts means clearer failures, easier debugging, and faster fixes. Think of it as the first screening in which we are figuring out which waiters need improvement before opening the restaurant to customers. At this point, we have a solid understanding of what an API is, what it's capable of, and why a quality assurance team would want to use APIs early on in the STLC. Join me in part 2 of this video, where we'll dive deeper into the specific functions APIs can perform, how headers and other parameters help define how we send and receive data, what to expect from our requests, and how to interpret those responses. Be sure to click the link in description for part 2, and if a career in tech sounds like it might be a good fit for you and you're ready to start learning with a bootcamp like TripleTen, check out their website for more information. Link also in description below. Thanks for watching, and happy testing!